Hey everybody, let's talk about the whole brained approach to professional vitality. I love the word vitality because it means to me both professional growth and learning. So it's development as well. It's like well-being and learning. And that's what makes me happy. So, I just thought I would share this with you. What is a neuroscience approach to professional vitality? These are my disclosures. And we're going to focus really on the neurobiology of how to put our brain in the states of big ideas, to find our purpose, and to find a sense of momentum at work, so that we don't feel stuck. We don't feel like we're just stuck on a wall, like just looking up a big wall, like I can't get over it. Vitality. It's the capacity to live and develop, says Webster. And there's been many studies looking at vitality at work. How do we optimize our workforces so that we can help people feel vital at work, that they're both living and developing, that they are learning and they are honored and feeling valued. And that seems to be a challenge right now, especially in healthcare, because there's so many people that are getting burned out. Let's start with this quote by Dan Kahneman. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He's a psychologist and an economist. He states, "Those who avoid the sin of intellectual sloth could be called engaged. They're more alert, more intellectually active, less willing to be satisfied with superficially attractive answers, more skeptical about their intuitions." And he wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, and has, years and decades of research behind under his name. But this book called Thinking Fast and Slow, he just came up with these systems. They're not like physiologic systems that we think fast or slow. But what he is encouraging here in the quote is that we just slow down a little bit. We stay intellectually active, less willing to be satisfied with superficially attractive answers. Be a little bit skeptical. So we will talk about bias and, taking a pause so we can put our brain in the best state to come up with the big ideas. I love to talk about the whole brained approach to professional development. A lot of times we hear the wholehearted approach. We have to take our whole heart. Well, okay, I think we're old enough and we have enough degrees that we understand that the brain is the place where both emotions and our thoughts come from, and so many other things. And so we need to know more about the brain to help us stay vital at work, right? So that we can build our capacity and we can also develop and keep learning. What if we turn this on its head and just stop talking about wholehearted approach and instead talk about the whole brained approach? So we're going to get deep into the neuroscience right now. So the brain is like a busy parent. It's already really busy. It's doing a million things. It's running the whole body, all the systems, and it's really focused on preserving you. So we have to acknowledge that. And then if we also want to learn, or we also want to work, or we also want to raise a family, or we also want to hang out with friends, we have to give it resources, right? So we have to acknowledge, number one, it's managing the whole body. That's its first role. Second is preserving us. So it's always watching for safety, making sure we're okay. Then it has time to learn and grow and have fun. So we need to make sure we give it what it needs so that it can flourish. This is a distressing slide talking about physician distress and burnout and the neurobiologic perspective. The image toward the right shows the frontal lobe, the front part of the brain, more gray, and some deep parts of the brain. I'm not going to get into the neuroscience today, but the deep parts of the brain more red, brighter red. And that's because people are more distressed. They have more negative emotions, more safety concerns. And those areas of the brain will be lit up in that situation. The front part of the brain, which drives our professional behaviors like executive function, professionalism, emotional control, cognition, is dulled in this sense. And this is what it's saying in their research, is that if indeed the situation on the right is happening, it has a potential for medical errors, harder to manage tasks because we're just not thinking as well, suboptimal care, decreased commitment to professionalism, impaired communication with patients and coworkers, cynicism, not engaged at work, increased likelihood of unprofessional behavior. The optimal state is more on the left, where the frontal lobe is green and it is driving the different systems of the brain. The brain is full of many different systems and many different neurochemicals. We're not going to get into the details of that now. But in this study, they do state, by definition, occupational burnout is primarily precipitated by characteristics of the work environment rather than by individual problems with resilience or coping. Thus, changes in the work environment are the key to reducing the risks. So there's many opportunities to change where and how we practice medicine. We are going to focus more on professional development today. But I think this quote from Malcolm Gladwell, who is a well-known author and speaker, stating, if everyone has to think outside the box, maybe it's the box that needs fixing. And so indeed, there's many opportunities to change healthcare and healthcare delivery, but we don't really have the ability to go into that today. But this quote is hopeful for me. It's from a study from years ago, from 2006, but they were looking again at something similar to the image that we just saw, that there were experiments and experience with control over the stressors, and that if a person could experience control over the stressors, it changed that response. Remember the part of the brain that was gray compared to part of the brain that was green on those images. It was pretty neat. If someone felt control, then the next stressors that came, they would have a different response to the second stressor. So indeed, it's good for us to look for areas of control because it will change our response to even more stressors that may be coming. And that is what the term resilient means. I'm all for working with national, local organizations to change healthcare, but still I need to know how to navigate healthcare today because the risk of emotional distress is 60% and burnout is somewhere 40 to 70%, depending. So what we really want to do is move it from the right image to the left image, where the parts of the brain that really help us take in data and make healthy decisions and regulate our emotions is a bright green. So again, I'm going to repeat this a few times because I just want you to, remember this. And this is how we learn, by repetition, right? So the brain is really busy. It's focused on preserving you. And if we want to learn or professionally develop, we have to fill up the gas tank, right? So sometimes we come in healthcare because we've been on call, busy, working on your charts, et cetera. And you come in with an empty gas tank and you want to learn. First, you have to fill up the gas tank and then you can learn because the brain's already busy. If we use the concept of whole brain professional development or whole brain vitality, we are going to talk about whole brain vitality and how to put our brain in a state of coming up with big ideas, how to feel that we have an impact in this world, and how to maintain some momentum professionally so we don't feel so stuck or toast. So what can we do to put our brain in a state of big ideas? There's 3 areas we're going to talk about. Number 1 is believe in belonging. Number 2 is emotional synchrony. Number 3 is we're going to talk about how we can prime creativity in the brain. Now, the amazing Brene Brown, who everyone knows, stated, but true belonging is not something we negotiate or accomplish with others. It's a personal commitment that we carry in our hearts. Well, I want to challenge Brene. You could tell her to call me. But really, it's the neuroscience force. It's the neuroscience areas of the brain that help us to feel like we belong or not. It's not the heart. I mean, we feel symptoms in the heart when we don't belong, right? I'm going to show you cute little faces once in a while, just to remind us that our work today can have impact on future generations. So how can we build a sense of belonging within our teams? Our teams are something like this image to the right, that we all come from different backgrounds. We have different goals, different personalities. But the things that certain books have shared that will increase our ability to feel like we belong on the team or at work are a few things. So one book that goes over this in detail is The Culture Code by Dan Coyle. Dan Coyle is a Clevelander. Anyone here know him? Anyway, so he has gone over the research, kind of sifted through all the research about team building and culture building, and has come up with suggestions. It's a great book to read. It helps to make sense of a lot of things. But the first thing is vulnerability. So when a leader gets up and says, hey, this was hard for me, it didn't go well, and I tried my best and it wasn't successful, and this is what I did next. So if people are vulnerable and they're sharing their challenges and what they learned from it, that helps us to understand them, that they are an authentic person. If everything's always perfect, it's just not authentic. It's not how humans are, right? Perfect is not our goal. Perfect is the enemy of good. Did you ever hear that quote? Yeah. Um, okay, trust. How do we build trust? Well, surprisingly, Brene Brown has taught us how we can build trust, and it's very small actions. Surprisingly, just very small ones, and we can build trust slowly over time. And then giving the team clarity so we know exactly what our role is, when we have to be there, what time, who do we report to. So if we have clarity in our roles in our work, we feel like we belong. If we're not sure like who we're supposed to report to, what time we're supposed to be there, it doesn't feel good. We don't feel like we belong on this team. This is a beautiful quote by Maya Angelou, the amazing writer and all around inspirational person. She stated, "I long, as does every human being, to be at home wherever I find myself." Home. What do you think of when you think of home? A lot of us have different thoughts, different feelings that come to mind. Maybe a vision, you see something, you see your kitchen table or what have you, maybe your favorite bedroom as a child. That feeling like we belong, that we are truly valued, that we are honored at home, we're held accountable, people believe in our growth abilities. All of those could be features of home. And that's what we want even in the workplace. Let's take a minute just to get to know each other a little bit to build our belonging today, because I know you've had a really an intense discussion probably this morning about tough situations. So let's just share around the table with the people next to you. What is the most unique and interesting thing you have eaten, and where were you? Just so we can learn a little bit of something about each other. I'll share one. I'll start, and then you can think about it. I went to college in a small college in Pennsylvania, and my roommate was from a small town, one stoplight. Can't remember if there's a stoplight. I think there's a flashing light. It was big. Maybe there's no stoplight, and then it got a flashing light, and it was a big deal. Anyway, their family had a game feast. So they had all these dishes of different animals that they caught when they were hunting. And I didn't have anyone in my family that hunted. I didn't know anything about hunting. So it was very interesting. So when I was at that party, I ate bear because I thought, hey, if I eat bear and I ever run into a bear in the woods or something, it's going to know I already ate it. So I didn't eat the squirrel dish or some of the other things. They had a lot of venison all the time. But so why don't you share or just think about a unique thing and share it with a friend? What's a unique thing that you've eaten and where were you? So what about synchrony within the team, within work? Well, amazingly, when we walk into work, we bring so many things with us, right? We bring our emotional setting, we bring our physical health, we bring our goals, our dreams, our frustrations. And that is what we all synchronize with, just like this beautiful image of the women playing music. You can imagine maybe before they got there, they had to get a child ready for bed or try to get that dress on without it being full of baby germs and crumbs, etc. But they look very focused. They're all ready to go. They know the point of the team. They know their purpose there. And so we want to acknowledge that indeed, as a community at work, we are synchronizing. So in healthcare, we've heard, 60% of people are in emotional distress. So that means we are sharing that all day long. So we have to do everything we can to, number one, acknowledge that, to be aware of that, and then do what we can to rebalance. How else can we synchronize with the team so that we feel like a unit? So we feel like we belong. We can share our values personally. We can also reinforce the values of our organization. We can look for tensions because sometimes the tension is between, our personal value and the organizational values, and we have to get that out and talk through that. And then with the team, we need to acknowledge our mission. What is the mission of the team? What are we after? What's our goal? And then continue to share that. The culture code, that book I had mentioned earlier, goes over the power of that, with sharing the mission frequently with the team. Because when we're united like that, that will raise our team synchrony. There are actually literally like EEG studies of people who are trying to solve common problems, EEG studies of kids at school or teens at school. And we do start to synchronize some of our brain waves as we're trying to solve a common problem. So we do synchronize our emotional levels. We synchronize our brain waves. We even synchronize like our pulse rate, blood pressure. So we synchronize. So you can say like, hey, I'm just going to go to work, get my work done, but we will be affected at work and we will bring things to work. So, and that will also change our perceptions, right? Just like this funny little cartoon on the left, it says you have exactly 3 seconds to explain why you woke me. That's probably your last call night, right? Or you have the opposite end of the spectrum, just like happy go lucky, smiles, keep on smiling. It's like, well, what day is it? And it depends how we are. We see the world as we are. And there's a wonderful book called Resonant Leadership by Dr. Boyatzis. He's a professor at Weatherhead School of Business in Cleveland, Ohio. And he talks a lot about, linking our emotions, our values, our purpose to our projects at work, because if they are, especially as adult learners, we're more likely to hit the goal, and to have lasting change and lasting skill building. So it's very important to use all the parts of the brain, not just the fact data part, but also the purpose part and the emotional part to help us to keep momentum towards our work goals. So what else can we do to boost our belonging day to day? We can think about, how do we recognize our teams? How are teams treated? Is there any way we bring kindness into work each day? Is there anything we can think about this week that we could do to recognize a team, to treat a team differently, or to bring kindness into work this week? You think about that. And then we have to acknowledge that indeed our brain is at a certain setting and it will influence what we're able to see. So that level of belonging, like we just talked about, are we valued? How are we recognized? Is there any kindness at work? What are our current emotions? What are our team's emotions? Sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is focus, data, get the job done. Parasympathetic is rest and relax. So mostly after lunch, you're in the rest and relax state, but you still probably have work to do. So it's a kind of a mixed neural state for us. But again, Dr. Boyatzis recommends taking 10 minutes throughout your day. So probably 3 times a day is what he recommends, 10 minutes to put some parasympathetic throughout your day, because it will increase your ability to be creative throughout the day. And you have to think of your nutrition, your movement, your sleep, because all of that will indeed change the brain's ability to be creative. So another reminder that the brain is running the whole body. It's focused on preserving you, and it really wants to learn. What can we do to prime creativity? Well, we can look like this girl on the upper right. She looks like she's having fun with all her classmates at lunch, at school. She's got a fun top on and fun glasses. And we need to be intentional that we have fun throughout our weeks, because fun is a great neurologic state. There's no judgment. We're physically with others, and it's generally a physical activity. So it is helpful to acknowledge what we need to be in a fun state. And then cybersecurity, who are we letting in? Who are we giving our focus and attention to? And then as well, like movement and sleep and nutrition, those are all going into the brain and changing or enhancing or decreasing how well the brain's able to work. And then what about well-being? All those dials we see on the lower right, those like exactly that we have toxins of the brain, like we have excessive alcohol, smoking, toxins for the brain. We have good things for the brain. So what setting do we have our brain in so that we can put our brain in the best state? Now we can add 2 new things to our perception influencers: belonging, emotions. Now we can add fun and focus. But there's something called mental pollution. And that is when something is just dragging away your focus and your attention. And what's out there doing that? Well, as you can see in this image, tablets, phones, laptops, just general noise, distracting environments, and just action for no goals. So we want to make sure we're thinking about our intention and our attention. Who are we giving our attention to, and what's our intention? And we really want to focus on that, because people are trying to grab our attention. It's an attention economy. There are people, their whole job is to just grab our attention. And we want to say, hey, no, we're here to do this, and this is our focus. So what can we do to kind of work around all the stressors and the people trying to get our attention? We can be self-aware, right? We can know our emotional state. How do we feel like we belong? Are we treating others kindly? Are we watching our nutrition, our sleep, our movements? What are we focused on? Do we have 5 phones and 3 computers open? And are we putting fun throughout our week? Because that will kind of reset our parasympathetic, sympathetic state. And connections definitely increase our positive emotions. So we always want to be doing what we can to dial up our positive emotions. I love the saying, turn off when take off. So that's a concept. When you leave, when you take off from work, you turn off your emails, turn off your phones if you're not on call. If you're going on vacation as a team, you decide, like, I'm going to cover each other, so you can turn things off and just really get away. And then we can have mindful meeting options. We can, start a meeting with just silence for a little bit, or start a meeting with gratitude, or start a meeting with kind of a check-in, how's everyone doing? And you can have certain rules so that you can focus within the meeting, no laptops or phones. And we set a goal. This is what we're going to hit this meeting. So we want to be very intentional about setting people's attention, and to not waste anyone's time. Cute little face. So there's our perception checklist. We want to make sure we're intentional about this throughout our busy day. Some people more animal people. I like to put these little faces up here too, because I think it helps us remind us that, the brain needs care. Just like if you had this little puppy at home, you certainly wouldn't just leave it, ask it to work all day long, don't let it sleep or eat, not have any food in the house for it. That would not be good intentional care of a cute little puppy like this. So it's same thing with the brain health, brain care. We want to make sure that we're influencing our brain for good professional development. We're keeping it vital. We're keeping it at its full capacity so that it can continue to develop. We can't leave it to chance, right? Because who's going to do it for us? So we've talked about, in order to put our brain in a state of big ideas, we have to believe in belonging. We have to honor emotional synchrony and prime for creativity. All right. So let's think about what are some things you've done recently for fun? How about cybersecurity? How do you focus? How do you keep your attention enhanced throughout busy days? How do you avoid that mental pollution or just that action addiction, just staying busy but not really hitting any goals? And what about well-being? What have you done in the past week to enhance your own well-being state, whether it be movement, sleep, nutrition, being with friends, having fun? So again, there's things we can do every day to put our attention and intention toward being whole-brained in our professional development, to stay vital, to increase our vitality, so we can know what helps the brain come up with big ideas, to feel like it has impact, and to keep it going with momentum. Thank you for your attention.